is the operator SIG update from Michal and Rama. So Michal or Rama, would you like to share?
Yes, I will share my screen. Hold on. Let me know if you can see my slides.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so good morning or evening, depending on where you are. I'm Michal, and together with Rama, we are chairing the operators SIG in ONNX. And I wanted to give you a few updates and talk about some of the plans for the near future. So starting with the updates of what happened since the last ONNX workshop. After the last ONNX workshop was held, release 1.9 of ONNX was made public, and then more recently, release version 110 was made available. And with ONNX 1.9, the operator set 14 was added to ONNX, and with 110, operator set 15. So these two new operator sets made some changes, and some of those operator set 14 changes were already discussed during the last workshop, so I won't go into details, but just to give you an overview, with opset 14, we added a small number of new operators, just those two, but with 15, we added a few more. So with operator set 15, we added the Bernoulli of random number generator as a function using other random number generating operators already available in ONNX. And also cast-like is a simple function that can cast data to a different type based on the type of another input. So those are additional functions that can be decomposed if you have support for ONNX functions. And the other operators that were added all have to do with the new optional data type that I will talk about in a minute. So these are new operators. A few more operator updates were added in opset 15. And these are changes related to support of new types, or in case of shape, there's a more substantial change where the shape operator can now return a slice with new attributes. There were a few clarification related to operations and updates to batch normalization. Now, all of the numbers on the right represent pull requests where these changes were made. So you can review them if you want to by going to the appropriate pull request. The more impactful for the future of ONNX change are the changes in the type system, which introduce new possibilities of expressing inputs to operators. Some of the operators don't support them yet, but many operators will likely be updated in the near future to support them. So one is the optional type, which represents a value or a placeholder for that value, depending on the scenario. So you can have an optional type. And the other is the sparse tensor, which actually was already available in ONNX ML, but was now promoted to be part of the ONNX default type set. So those are the changes. As some other work that was done in the recent past, since the last workshop, had to do with the operator version converter functionality. Many new adapters were added, so you can now convert most ONNX operations from a lower offset to a higher offset, because those conversions are available. And we also have now tests which automatically detect if such an upgrade is missing when a new operator version is being added. So as part of the process of adding a new version of an operation, a converter or an adapter for this specific conversion from the older offset to the newer offset should be provided as well. And these tests will make sure that this happens. We continue working on this, as Ashwini also mentioned in her presentation. There's investment into this, but I have a question for the audience, because we've mainly been focusing on upgrade adapters from a lower operator set to a higher operator set. So there aren't many, or there isn't complete support for downgrade operators. And if you have use cases for that, if this is a pain point for you, then please let us know. For the future, there are some directions that have appeared as part of the discussions of the ONNX roadmap. For example, there is some need to focus on pre-processing of models. It seems that in deployments using ONNX, pre-processing is becoming a bigger and bigger performance problem, since these pre-processing steps are often carried out in Python. So in order to improve performance, they need to be either rewritten into a more performant language, or integrated with our ONNX models, just to execute the whole model with pre-processing steps directly. But for the pre-processing steps, there are operations which are missing, and some of these have been pointed out during the roadmap discussions and are listed here. But perhaps more pre-processing operations are also needed, and you can let us know which ones you see that are required for more integrated machine learning pipelines that could be performed all in ONNX. Now, another direction is federated learning, and this federated learning could be done with ONNX tools, and in particular, the ONNX training extensions could be used for learning on edge devices. But there are probably functions and operators that are missing for these scenarios, and also your feedback is welcome. What is required here to support your use cases? For the pre-processing work, there is actually a work group established already focusing on pre-processing. The goal of this workshop is to identify the requirements and present them in a form that can be integrated with ONNX. So, for example, defining new operations. There are monthly meetings of this work group, so you can join those. Another direction that we're focusing on is unifying the interface of operations. During the OctoML presentation, we had an example of an inconsistency in the spec pointed out to us. We are aware that there are a few of these inconsistencies, and we would like to identify all of them and then align the spec so that there aren't inconsistencies, and that the interface is unified across all operations. To that end, there is now an issue on GitHub, number 3651, And that issue was started by Jackie, and he started collecting these different inconsistencies and other problems in the spec into one list that we can use to generate this unified interface style. So please contribute to this list. If you have observations that aren't yet accumulated there, add your comments. And also, if somebody is interested in making small fix PRs, that is a good starting point to go through that list and just start making these fixes. We're also, as before, focusing on reducing the number of primitives added to ONNX. So most of the new operations are being added as functions if possible. We're making sure that that happens, and if possible, we're looking for operators that we could replace with functions. So that's everything from us. If you have any questions, then you can ask us. Thank you.
Thank you, Michal and Rama, for covering the operator SIG. It was certainly exciting to see like the roadmap accommodation that needs to be done. I'm sure Alex here will be happy as well. So excited to see the growth that we'll be having there.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's much appreciated.
Any questions for Michal and Rama? Next